All right, guys, we're going to start out this year by just evaluating some algebraic expressions, talking about order of operations, some basic things you've learned back in Algebra 1, just kind of as a little refresher for you to start off with here. So we want you to evaluate this expression, q squared plus 4qr minus r squared, when r is negative 3 and q is 7. So first thing we're going to do is just plug these numbers in the right spots over here. So q is 7. Now when I plug stuff in, I'm always going to use parentheses. That number gets its own set of parentheses, and then we're going to square it. All right, plus 4, and then I'm going to put the q in parentheses, so 7, and then put r in parentheses as well, negative 3. And then minus, and I'm going to put another negative 3 in parentheses there, and then we're going to square that. Okay, remember your order of operations. You have that acronym that we've come up with, PEMDAS. All right, and hopefully remember this is parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division. These are kind of on the same level. So whichever comes first as you're kind of going left to right. And then same thing with addition and subtraction. They're on the same level. So you're allowed to subtract before you add if that comes first in the order that this is written in. All right, parentheses mean that you need to do anything inside the parentheses. But if there's nothing to do, like there's only a 7 inside this parentheses. So there's nothing to do, it's just a number. Okay, so we really have nothing to do for parentheses on this problem because there's only single numbers inside our parentheses. All right, so P's done. Exponents are next. So we do have a couple exponents here we're going to evaluate. Again, it really doesn't matter. You can kind of do things if they're all in a single term. Like each one of these, 7 squared is one term. The 4 times 7 times negative 3 is another term, and then the negative 3 squared is a third term. We can do all these kind of in a row, even though this is multiplying in here and these are exponents. You can do the multiplying at the same time. All right, so just kind of use your judgment. It's just when it all gets kind of together in one term that we'll start to look at how we have to be specific about our order. All right, so exponents, 7 squared. Hopefully we know that that is 49. You want to know your perfect squares. Those will be very useful later on in this course. All right, I'll leave that alone for a second. Then over here we have minus. Now negative 3 squared. This is a tricky one. All right, the parentheses are very important. If you're planning on using a calculator, which I suggest not relying on the calculator to do a lot of these calculations, it's very beneficial to be able to do a lot of these multiplies and divides in your head. Because later on when we're doing factoring and other things, you want to be able to quickly come up with those numbers and not have to sit there and type in your calculator 17 different things. Okay, so negative 3 squared. Remember that this squared means you're multiplying this number by itself. So this means negative 3 times negative 3. And when you multiply two negative numbers together, they become a positive number. So negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Now, we still have a minus in front because of this minus right here. All right, but the negative inside went away. So it's not like minus a negative, it's just minus 9. All right, because those two negatives canceled each other out. All right, so that's just something, kind of a rule that you can remember. Anytime you square a negative number, it becomes a positive number. All right, that happens every single time. All right, so we've done our exponents now. Multiply, divide. So let's just multiply these three numbers together. Kind of do it in any order you want. So let's do 4 times 7, that's 28. And then 28 times negative 3 is negative 84. All right, so one more thing to do is add and subtract. You just need to add all these together or subtract them, whatever it is. 49 plus negative 84 minus 9. So you can kind of figure out what the best way, like since we're not using a calculator, I kind of look at it like this: 49 minus 9. I know what that is. That's easy. 49 minus 9 is 40. And then plus a negative is the same as subtracting. So I'm just doing 40 minus 84, and that equals negative 44. And that's going to be our answer here. All right, let's try a couple more difficult ones here. All right, v squared minus u times u squared minus v squared over uv. All right, so let's plug everything in. Remember, we're going to use our own parentheses for each one. So it's going to be 4 squared minus negative 2. All right, now there was already a parentheses in this problem, but when we plug in the u, we're going to put another parentheses. Don't be afraid of using too many parentheses. Better to have too many parentheses than too few parentheses. And then 4 squared, and then we're going to close that parentheses. And all of that's going to be over negative 2 times 4. All right, so parentheses we're supposed to start out with, PEMDAS, remember. All right, so we've got stuff inside a big parentheses right here. So let's start with that. Okay, but like I said, we can do some of this outside stuff as well, just so it doesn't take up so much space on our paper. So I am going to actually do the 4 squared. Go ahead and do that because it's a totally separate term over here. All right, evaluating that first isn't going to hurt what's going to happen over here. So 4 squared is 16. All right, I'm also going to take care of this double negative situation. This is like negative 1 times negative 2. Well, negative times a negative is a positive 2. All right, now let's evaluate what's going on in here. Negative 2 squared. Okay, remember that's negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. All right, minus 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. All right, and all over negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. All right, so here's where order of operations is very important. Okay, right now you see 16 plus 2 out here. Okay, a lot of you are going to be tempted to put 18. 16 plus 2 is 18. That's easy. You cannot do that. Okay, addition and subtraction is last. What's happening between the 2 and the parentheses? That's multiplying. Multiplying has to be done before you add or subtract. So that's where the order really is important, when all this stuff is kind of attached to each other up here. Okay, we also aren't even done with the parentheses yet. We still have stuff inside the parentheses. So I'm going to do that first. 4 minus 16 is negative 12. Okay, so now this is 2 times negative 12. All right, well, we know what that is. That's negative 24. So I have 16 minus 24 over 8, negative 8. All right, so now I have 16 minus 24. I believe that is negative 8. Still have this negative 8. Well, what is negative 8 divided by negative 8? The negatives cancel each other out. 8 over 8 is 1. So all that to reduce down to 1. All right, y'all give this one a try on your own. Pause the video, give it a try, and then come back and unpause and see if you got it right. All right, so let's plug all of our stuff in here. We've got negative 3 to the 4th minus 3 times 4 times negative 5 over negative 5 to the 3rd plus 2 times 4. All right, so negative 3 to the 4th. A 4th power is just like squaring. Any even numbered power is going to make a negative turn into a positive. So negative 3 to the 4th. All right, that's like negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. All right, multiplying 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. So negative 3 to the 4th is 81. All right, minus 3 times 4. All right, let me go back real quick. I'm going to kind of do that a little better. So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. All right, so the way I do this is negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. This negative 3 times negative 3 is also positive 9. And then 9 times 9 is 81. All right, so that's how I kind of tackle those 4th powers. All right, being able to do that in our head without our calculator. Obviously, if the numbers were a lot bigger, it would be much harder, but with 3, we can handle it pretty easily. All right, over here, we've got negative 3 times 4, that's negative 12, and then negative 12 times negative 5 is positive 60. All right, negative 5 cubed. All right, so that's negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. All right, so negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. 25 times negative 5 is negative 125. So notice with the odd powers, a power of 3, the sign stays the same. You keep the negative. The negative doesn't go away like it did on the even power. All right, that's an important distinction to remember for later on when we start doing more stuff with exponents. Okay, even ones cancel out the negative, odd ones do not. All right, and then that'll be plus 8, 2 times 4. All right, so last thing left to do is to add these together. So 81 plus 60 is 141. Negative 125 plus 8 is negative 117. Okay, usually you don't see a negative written on the bottom like that. It's just not a conventional way to write things. So I'm going to put that negative out front like this, 141 over 117. All right, also we want to see if we can reduce this. So let me take that circle away. We're not quite done yet. All right, so way to tell, we know they're not divisible by 2 because they're odd numbers. What about 3? Okay, a little trick to tell if they're divisible by 3. If you add up the digits, if that number is divisible by 3, then so is the bigger number. So like 1 plus 4 is 5, 5 plus 1 is 6. Well, 6 is divisible by 3, so I know that 141 is also divisible by 3. Okay, 117, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 7 is 9. Well, 9 is divisible by 3, so I know 117 is divisible by 3 as well. Okay, so we need to divide these both by 3. 3 goes into 141. Let's see, that's 4, which will leave 2147. All right, and then 3 goes into 117. That'll go in there 3 times, which will leave 27. That'll be 39. All right, so negative 47 over 39, and that'll be our final answer on this one. Always reduce your fractions. All right, last one. We're gonna do the same thing. It's just with a formula for a shape. So this one's a cone. They give you the formula right here. It's a 1/3 pi r squared h. Good thing about algebra is you usually don't need to memorize these geometry formulas. So if you have forgotten them, they will usually be given to you. So we can approximate the volume of a tornado with the volume of a cone. So find the approximate volume of this tornado. All right, so we just need to plug those in. We know that this is our r right here, our radius, and then this is our h, our height. So let's just plug those numbers in. We've got 1/3 pi, and then times 75 squared times 225. All right, now these numbers are definitely too big for us to even try to do in our heads. So this is where we want to pull out our calculator. Okay, I would like you to at least kind of do this in pieces. Don't just type in the whole thing. So like I want to do 75 squared kind of by itself. All right, and that's 5625. Then we can type in the 1/3. Pi on these is down in the left bottom. You click that and this little menu pops up, and then you hit enter and there's your pi. Then we can you can go up and like highlight that number and press enter, and then it'll copy down, and then we can do times 225. All right, and hit enter, and we get this. And all right, this is in a scientific notation because that's what the E means. It means times 10 to the 6th power. So we want to move that decimal that many places over. So it's like 1.32536. That's 5, and then we put a 0 on the end. So it's 1,325,360. 1,325,360 meters, and volume is a cubic. So 1,325,360 meters cubed.